You don't have to wait until you're 40 to realize this, but most women do. The truth is, by the time we get there, we are exhausted, overcommitted, and still questioning if we are living the life we want. That's why today I'm sharing 9 lessons every woman should know. Lessons I wish I knew sooner. And I promise at least one of them will completely change how you see things. Lesson 1: say no without guilt. If you ever said yes to dinners you didn't want to go to, favors you didn't have time for, or plans you didn't even enjoy just to keep the peace or make everyone else happy, you know how exhausting it is. I used to do it all the time. I thought being agreeable meant being kind or easy to be around. But the truth, it left me drained and resentful. What I've learned is saying no isn't rude, it's self respect. You don't owe anyone your time, your energy, or availability just because they ask nicely. Protecting your peace starts with setting boundaries. And the people who really care about you, they will understand. If something feels like a no in your gut, don't even say maybe. You don't need to over explain or apologize. A simple, that doesn't work for me, is enough. And learning to say it without guilt will change everything. Lesson number 2: perfection is overrated. Nobody is looking for perfect, they are looking for real. I used to think perfectionism was a strength, but really it was just holding me back. I told myself everything had to be 100% right before I could move forward, whether it was starting a new routine, sharing an idea, or even posting something online. But here's the truth: waiting for perfect usually means waiting forever. Life gets easier when you stop micromanaging every detail and start making progress with what you have. And honestly, I'm living this lesson right now. This is only my third YouTube video. There is so much I don't know, but I'm not waiting, to have it all figured out. I'm learning as I go, and that's enough. Because when you show up real, consistently, imperfectly, people connect with that. And more importantly, you start building momentum and self trust. In the end, done is always better than perfect. Lesson number 3: you can't change people. If someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. I used to think with enough patience or the right words, I could help people change, especially the ones I cared about. But the truth is, people only change if they want to. And they also don't want your advice unless they ask for it. You can't fix the one friend who only calls when they need something. You cannot push somebody to grow if they're not ready. And you can't make somebody treat you better if they don't see a problem. That doesn't mean you stop caring, it just means you stop carrying the whole relationship on your own. Accept people as they are, not as you hoped they would become. Lesson number 4: stop worrying what other people think. Here's the truth: most people aren't even thinking about you, they are too busy with their own lives. I used to spend so much energy trying to be liked or accepted or to avoid judgment. But no matter what you do, people will always have an opinion. You cannot please everyone. You could be kind, thoughtful, and doing your best and still be misunderstood. At some point, you realize it's not your job to manage other people's perceptions. And most of the time, their opinions say more about them than they do about you. It's just a reflection of their internal state, not a judgment that should define you. Someone calls you names, it usually says more about how they feel inside than anything about you. You have to live with alignment with who you are and stop worrying what anybody else says. Lesson number 5: you can't control everything, only how you respond. Now, have you ever noticed that most of what you try to control, you never really had control over in the first place? You can plan for weeks, stay 2 steps ahead, and try to make everything go smoothly. But life will still throw curveballs. People cancel, plans change, someone gets sick because life happens. The truth is, you can't control most things. Not what other people do, not how they react, not even how the day will unfold. What you can control is how you respond to setbacks, to changes, to the unexpected, and whether you let it spiral you or you accept it and move forward. The more you try to micromanage every outcome, the more drained you feel because it's impossible. But when you stop fighting what you can't control and start working with what's in front of you, everything gets easier. You can't control it all. Lesson number 6, stop overthinking. My favorite lesson. Because overanalyzing doesn't give you control, it steals your peace. Sometimes your brain just doesn't know when to stop. You think about something small, and all of a sudden, you've built a whole story in your head. You start imagining what somebody meant, what could go wrong, or if you should have done or said something differently. Now, that's overthinking. It feels like you're being careful or responsible, but really, you are just making yourself anxious. And most of the time, you are not solving anything. You're just stuck in a loop. I used to replay conversations, double check every message, and go back and forth on even the smallest decisions. And it was exhausting. Overthinking steals your time, your clarity, and your peace of mind. It keeps you stuck in what ifs instead of helping you move forward. So here's what I try to remind myself, and maybe it can help you too. Not everything needs to be figured out right now. And not every thought deserves your full attention. Sometimes you just need to breathe, step back, and move on. Because most of the time, it's not even a real problem, it's just a noise. And one thing that helps you silence that noise is being intentional about who you let in your life, which leads us to lesson number 7. Choose your circle wisely. The people around you either nourish you or drain you, and you feel the difference. Even if you don't always admit it, you don't need a huge group of friends. You just need the right energy around you. The ones who respect your boundaries, cheer you on, and always tell you the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Not the ones who secretly compete with you or make you question your worth every time you leave the room. I had to learn that just because I have known somebody for years doesn't mean they still deserve a front row seat in my life, especially if the energy no longer aligns. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with someone. Do you feel calm, seen, inspired? Or quite the opposite, do you feel small, tense, or like you have to shrink yourself? You are allowed to outgrow people because who you surround yourself with shapes who you become. You've probably heard that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and honestly, I think it's true. So be selective who gets your time. And just as important as choosing the right people is choosing to fully be yourself around them. Which leads us to lesson number 8, accept yourself fully, even the parts you used to hide. You don't have to love every single thing about yourself to start accepting who you are. Maybe you are too sensitive, emotional, introverted, or maybe a little too much for some people. But the truth is, you are not here to be liked by everyone. The more you try to hide parts of yourself to fit in, the more disconnected you feel, because you're not showing up as your real self. And it's exhausting to be someone else just to avoid judgment or make other people comfortable. For way too long, I pretended I was tough and unbothered just because I didn't want to be seen as too soft. And then at some point, I realized self-acceptance is the beginning of real confidence. Because you can't build real confidence on top of self-rejection. Confidence comes from owning your story, all of it. You are not meant to be a filtered version of yourself. You are meant to be you, fully and without needing permission. And when you truly accept yourself, it becomes much easier to appreciate what's already in your life. Which leads us to my last lesson, lesson number 9, be grateful. Gratitude is a superpower. Now, I know it's easy to focus on what you're lacking, what you haven't achieved yet, what somebody else has that you don't. But when you train your mind to notice what's already good in your life, your entire perspective shifts. Now, gratitude doesn't mean you're ignoring problems. It means you choosing not to forget about things that are still good in your life. The small everyday things like a quiet morning, a deep breath, a genuine conversation with a friend, they all start to feel like gifts again. And that changes the way you see the world. You stop chasing happiness in some distant future version of your life. You start to choose to be happy right here and right now in the ordinary moments. I feel like we either worry too much about the future and then end up feeling anxious, or we dwell on the past and feel sad. But gratitude brings you back to the present. And when you live in the moment, everything feels a little lighter and clearer and definitely more meaningful. So there you have it. Now, these lessons didn't all come to me at once. They have been learned, tested, and lived over time. And if there is one thing I realized, it's that you don't have to have it all figured out to live a meaningful life. You just have to keep learning, growing, and keep choosing what really matters to you. So, which one of these lessons resonated with you the most? Let me know in the comments.